In this presentation, I will be conducting an interview with Carl Boothroyd, the CEO and Chief Strategist of IMA, which is Australia's largest B2B marketing agency. In this interview, we explored one of their recent campaigns, which was to bring brand awareness to a company called Lysaght.
A big project was a TV campaign for one of BlueScope's brands, which is called Lysaght.
Yeah.
The challenge there was they needed much broader awareness of the brand. So at BlueScope, everyone knows BlueScope and they know Colorbond, but they didn't know the Lysaght brand. And with them now targeting more consumers, in addition to trades and architects, they needed to get the brand broader known. And the secondary objective was they're asking their distributors to invest in the brand, but if they're not to be seen building the brand themselves, it's hard to get distributors to do that. Our process then was, and this is the important part of the creative process, is our role as the agency was to develop the brief. For the creative brief and the strategic aspect of it, a lot of it's around insights. Research to understand, first of all, the research drives that, hey, we have very little awareness.
Yeah.
So the research is telling us there's little awareness, and then the research is telling us, and this is the most important bit, what are users or consumers of that product wanting from that product? Collaboration on a project like that is extremely significant.
Yeah.
On a big project like that, we use an external creative guy. So what we had to do was develop the brief for him.
Yeah.
And that was all very much research-based. And then we also, as part of the briefing process, gave him all the competitors and what the competitors are currently doing on TV. So we give him, this is the audience, this is what the audience is looking for from this type of product, these are the competitors, and this is our client's value proposition. This is, based on all that, our client is strong in these areas, and this is the message we want to push. Yeah. So there's a lot around Australian-made and heritage, been around for 150 years, that type of stuff was really important. From that briefing process was, and it's a really good step, is he then came to us with, here's a bunch of TV ads. And he showed us a Nike ad. Now, this is for steel building products, but he showed us a Nike ad.
Yeah.
He showed us a New York Times ad. And there was a couple other big production TV ads in there. And all he's trying to do there is get a feel for what we liked.
Yeah.
And then he had his recommendation going, it's a fairly boring topic. All the competitors show a roof and either rain landing on the roof, or it's an overview shot done with a drone of a roof or a fence or something to do with Colorbond steel. Everyone does the same. So he said, let's do different. And that's what was part of the brief. We need to do different. We need to get noticed.
Yeah.
So we chose an ad style that was based on a New York Times ad. And then went to the client, which is always interesting, going, for your Colorbond steel type product that you want to promote, we want to go down the path of this New York Times ad. And they're like, okay. But they got the idea that it was all going to be this fast-paced, lots of images shooting up, really cool music. They approved that style, and then from there he developed storyboards. At that stage, all we're interested in that stage is, what is the message?
Yeah.
That's really all that matters at that stage, just get the messaging right. A lot of people do all the pretty stuff first, but then don't do the message. But you just got to get the message right, because if they don't agree on the message, the imagery that goes with the message all changes. Our client in that case is very much just, here's a verbal brief, this is what we think we need. We need better awareness. And it wasn't too much more detailed than that. So our job then as the agency is to develop what we call a reverse brief. And we go back to them, and this is the start of the collaboration, going, just check our understanding here of what you have asked for, and we will give them the detail. Well, there's a couple of things there. We start with, what do we want that audience to do? What do we want them to feel? How do we want them to act? What do we need them to do?
Yeah.
And then we work backwards from there. Really key bit, like when someone sees this or gets this or is served this or whatever, what do you want them to do?
To summarize, the main thing I took away from this interview was the importance of knowing your audience. Without knowing who you were targeting and why you were targeting them, you have no control over what you want your audience to feel or do as a result of what you produce. As Carl mentioned with their client, their brief didn't have a lot of detail, and it was something they had to work backwards on to decipher. That felt very similar to how we have to approach our brief in terms of building an idea. He also mentioned storyboards, which I think would be a really useful tool for our group to develop our brainstorming into something that's a bit more visual. And I really valued the comment that was made about the importance of the messaging to make something that appeals to an audience, both visually and intellectually. There needs to be a clear message so that the visuals will align with what we're trying to get across to the audience. Carl also spoke about how research and insight was what drove addressing the brief. And I think that's highly relevant to this assessment based on the keywords in our brief, which are fact-based. So overall, this interview gave me a lot of insight into the creative process, and I would definitely be taking those key takeaways into our group assessment.